if I ever tried to introduce the guests, I know that I wouldn't do it justice. I much prefer when the guests kind of
introduce themselves.
I think it
in a way
it frames it a little bit better. So I would love, well, first of all, welcome. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, I see her every so often.
Yeah.
And of course, social media and whatnot. But yeah, we went to school together.
Yes.
St. Anthony's.
Yeah.
By the
Great
way,
days.
25 years ago.
Was it 25?
2001, 2000.
Yeah.
2000 and 2001.
Yeah.
So 25, 26 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, you seen these gray hairs?
Yeah, that's a long
There's
time.
a lot of gray hairs, brother.
Yeah.
You still battling?
Yeah, I try really trying.
So tell us, Kenwyne, now, there's going to be a lot of people who know everything about you already, but there's definitely people who may still want to get a little introduction.
Do they? Well, of course, Kenwyne Jones, former this, that, the other, but just a proud Trinbagonian citizen, and really just here to try and make things, a bit better than I met it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think any patriot should strive to that. Anybody who loves their country should strive to at least leave it better or leave the next generation a little bit better.
You would think so,
Well,
but I think some of that fabric is being lost somehow. We grew up in a time where, we had respect for everything that we had, the country by itself, and felt a sense of pride. And I don't know when it turned to, everything else is better than at home.
Right.
But that is something that I've always carried with me. It's never left. And like I said, I'm here. I love my country, and I hope to make it better, for the future.
So I remember back in school days, let's go back 25 years. I remember leaving St. Anthony's to go to CIC for Form 6. Mm-hmm. And when I left, you have these things in your mind. It's like, oh, this one went to this school, this one went to university, this one went to work.
Yeah.
And there's a group of y'all,
yeah,
who I will just call the footballers,
yeah,
who we knew that you all wanted to go in the direction of football, obviously. I mean, that was, it seemed like you all slept and breathed and ate football.
Yeah.
Especially St. Anthony's being kind of, a football-oriented school.
Yeah.
When did you first want to, I guess, not play football, but when did you realize this is something that I could do for the rest of my life? Or when I say for the rest of your working life until you transition?
Well, first of all, I don't think it was that straightforward. Coming into school, I wanted to actually be an athlete first, because coming from primary school, I used to do athletics, 100 meters, 200 meters, 4, 8, high jump, long jump, anything you throw me into, along with playing football and basketball and cricket, all of these sports relatively. And coming to St. Anthony's, of course, it didn't have athletics program. It would have had the water polo, football, cricket, basketball.
I played basketball, with the McNish boys.
Yes. And, so I ended up falling into that. But the athletics thing for me was really to try and forge, have my own lane. Coming from a family that played the game, and relatively my uncle and my dad back in their time sort of made a name for themselves. So I couldn't walk anywhere in Trinidad and not hear, oh, you're Pamphilson, that man could play, that kind of thing. So I think from a young age, I wanted to run away from being in that shadow.
Right.
Fortunately, as God would have it, I came to St. Anthony's, and the first thing that I saw was the football field, pristinely cut.
2 football fields.
Right?
2 football fields, technically.
2.
One main one, but yeah.
But the main one was cut pristinely. They had brand new nets on, and maybe that would have been preseason for the older guys at that time. But that's the first thing I saw, and it kind of, locked in my attention. Coming through from Form 1 to about Form 3, again, still doing everything. Just happenstance to make the team in Form 1 and then start in Form 1 playing up to maybe like under 16. just falling into that. And of course, the social environment, meeting friends, classmates, getting to know the different social groups.
Of course.
That kind of forged the normal school life relatively. It wasn't until maybe Form 3, middle of Form 3, end of Form 3, where I had preseason with, up to under 16 again. I was like 13, 14. And, going into preseason, playing the Republic Bank Cup, as they normally do. We use that as preseason, but it was on the cusp of the Youth Under 17 World Cup coming up in Trinidad and Tobago in I would say maybe 2 years' time. So this was 1999, that coming up in 2 years' time. And, they started their scouting and training and all of that stuff. Not paying any mind to it. Went through the tournament, went back to school and thought, well, we're going to go through the season, because like any kid at that age, you're just going through the motion. It's Monday to Friday, school days, football season come up, basketball season come up. You have your work, you have end of year exams. You're just going through the motions. Yeah. At that age, there isn't a thought of, what my future would look like, because we're all seeing now. And went into the season, went through the season, really well. And then January, one of my classmates, who was also one of my good friends, came up to me and was like, the national team for North Zone, they're looking for you. They had your name on a list for however long. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, no problem. Went to the screening. It was like 150 of us approximately.
How old were you at this point?
Like 14.
Wow.
Right? And we went into the National Stadium, had a screening weekend more or less. So played my first game. Was kind of a little bit nervous, because obviously you're seeing so many players coming in to try and make this team, still not comprehending what it is about. Went through the day, play about 4 games, and in my 4th game, went in, scored a goal, and then after that, during the game, I tried to chase someone down and actually slipped on the field, went sliding and broke my wrist.
Oh shit!
Right. So after that, went through that procedure, went to the hospital, and of course, one of my good friends today, his uncle was the doctor at the time, took me to the hospital, got that sorted out, and I went through normal school life for the rest of the term, not thinking of anything and just kind of trying to draw my mind as to when I'm going to be healed so I could go back out and play and get back to preseason and the season ahead. With that happening, didn't go back to the screening for probably like 4 or 5 months. Just thought nothing of it, and healed, going through the season again. They got in contact with me because unfortunately I didn't have a phone at the time, so I had to rely on messages from friends. Got those messages, went back to the screening, and then literally, every week they were sort of dropping maybe 15, 20 kids.
Oh, wow.
Every single week. So you didn't have the opportunity to just laze around and think that, I'll make it. So, they went from 100 to 80 to 60. And every week I kept in the fray.
Even with that 4 or 5 month break.
4 or 5 month break, which was really good. And then, whittling it down till we were about 40. And then they started picking teams to go on tours, play friendlies abroad. And, I was making the team. I mean, my skills was rapidly growing at the same time. I was being consistent and, going forward in that vein. But the amount of places that I would have traveled in a year after that, it was amazing. I started at 15 years old, I started traveling the world. Started in the Caribbean, then started going Brazil, you name it, Japan, Germany, all over.
That's amazing.
So, on these experiences, going and playing football against the various national teams, people your age group, it started opening up my eyes to what this really is. Because yes, I used to watch football and watch it on TV back in the day, but coming from Trinidad and Tobago, you never think that, this could be, a career path for
Future.
you. From a very young age, I like physiotherapy. I wanted to do that because the normal route in school was, all right, you play football, you're looking for a scholarship to go into university, because there was that type of pathway in droves at that time.
I remember that.
So that was sort of the pathway to, of course, further your education, but then obviously set you on a career path. And going to all these different countries at that age just kind of opened up my eyes. So I started loving the feeling, going and playing, Paraguay's under 17 and playing in front of 30,000 people, going and playing, against Germany under 17s and playing in front of 20,000, 30,000 people. And that opened up my eyes, because the thing is that a lot of the, which is fun to look back on now, a lot of people that I played against at those ages then became sort of like world stars and people that I play against, and some teammates in the end, which is a really good thing to have and to look back on. But that is the sort of thing that opened up my eyes. And then coming back from that, going into the World Cup, things was moving rapidly. And this is within a 2-year span. When I mean rapidly, things were just, like a domino wall, just keep going down, just knocking things off. And, coming back to school, of course, going through the school seasons, winning the intercall and the league and the MVPs and all of that type of stuff. And then going through the World Cup was a fantastic feeling, because again, it was amazing.
Oh,
We built all the stadiums.
I'm going to touch on that for sure.
And we came in, played against, the Brazil, the Croatia, Australia. And then after that, I got a chance to sign for Joe Public, because Mr. Jack Warner at the time, saw the talent, signed 2 of us, and then wanted to take us out to Italy, to Perugia. Things didn't work out, and I didn't end up playing for Joe Public, but rapidly after that, I went back to school for Form 6. And this was 2001, and then of the January of 2002, I went to Manchester United and Middlesbrough. So this is at the height of Dwight York coming off the treble years.
Of course.
Going to see the Beckhams, the Van Nistelrooys, Manchester United as it was, the Steve McLarens, and some of the players, again, who became friends and teammates later on in my career. I would have gone and had the experience with them. After that trip, went out to Scotland, Glasgow Rangers. I went a ton of different clubs. And in my last year of school, I went on like a road trip. And I'll call it a road trip because I was on trial at various clubs for like 3 months. And coming on to that time, I was like, you know what, this can be an opportunity. I had the opportunity of going to a university, because all the top universities, the coaches used to come in person and look at players during the season. And all of them would have come to my house and negotiated, yes, we're going to give you a full ride, and, we could find a job here for you and you get extra money in your pocket, because they wanted me to come, to their university. And I told them all no, because, with the way things were going over the last year and a half, 2 years is like a new door opened.
Right.
So within myself, looking at my parents, I was like, you know what, I know this is a pathway to further education, but at the same time, I will not feel complete if I do not give this a try. I could find some way and somehow else to get education after, because at that time, the rules were, if you go on trials or you're playing for any professional club in that way, you weren't eligible for a scholarship.
Right. Okay.
So I know I was taking a chance that, if I go and do this, the school option in that format is out. So I did go to trials. I went to West Ham, Reading, Glasgow Rangers again. I went to Southampton. And then after Southampton, I was supposed to go to Tottenham. But when I got to the Southampton part, I got tired, because everywhere I went, someone wanted to sign me. But they had some issue when they started reconnecting with the people in Trinidad. And there was always some issue happening. And when I got to Southampton, it seemed I was so mentally fatigued that, they wanted to sign me, and it seemed like the deal could go through. And I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm going to sign here. And The rest is history.
And how old were you? How old were you during these trials? Just before you signed?
Just before I signed, so you're talking about going on trials from the age of 17 to 18, basically.
Wow.
17 to 18. And you know how we are. In our country, we use the university experience as that lobby or that hallway for young men and women to sort of, acclimatize to being an adult.
Yeah.
Introduce you to being able to live on your own and to pay your own bills and to manage yourself.
Wash your clothes.
Relatively,
Remember to wash your sheet. Yeah.
But the thing is, for me, when I look back at my life in its totality, I think everything that I did, what I was taught, kind of prepared me for that. Because I can remember, when I started to travel and going away and playing football, like my parents would get 2 phone calls from me. When I land where I'm going and when I'm about to leave to come back. In between that, I used to call no one. I was so focused on enjoying the experience that I would have had, in any place really, that, I'd forget about everything else. So, between 17 to 18, being on your own, staying in hotels, not having a chaperone really, and people coming to, just take you to training and then you have to manage that and then get back wherever you're staying after that. It was pretty easy for me. I was ready for that type of lifestyle.
And at 17, 18, you're doing trials. I know I can tell that you went to that and you went into that confident. Did you know that going on these trials, or did you believe that going into these trials that you were going to be, that's it, I'm going pro, I'm here and I'm going to sign with one of these people? Or was it still in your mind, shit, I might have to go back home?
No, not necessarily. I think the thought process is that you're going to give it your best shot in the hope that you will sign with someone. Because, at that age, you're going to, there are a lot of things that are above your head that you don't know what go into really signing someone, the logistics of you being from another country and all that administrative stuff that needs to happen. So it's not cut and dry that, I'm going to go on trial there and things will happen for me. The belief that you're going to put your best foot forward and in the hopes that you make it is what you have. And that's what I had, pretty early for me, 18, that time I had my first kid as well.
Wow.
So, that was extra motivation as well for me where, I'm going to try this. If, in this 3-month period, nothing works out, then after that is the alternative method because I have a responsibility as well. So I had extra motivation to make it either or. And, going everywhere, it's about when you get into the environment, of course, you're going to have that acclimatization period where, the people that you're training with, the managers, the players, the environment, and then you have to get down to business because you're not at any particular place for more than 2 weeks. So it's not like you're going to be one place for a month. Right. And I was moving and trying to
trial
make things,
trial.
And trying to make things happen during that period where, I'm moving from one city to the next relatively. And one club to the next. So by the time I get familiar with personnel, that has to change, but also that was a good thing because those people became a network for me later on in my career and it stood me in good stead.
So then was Southampton, the decision to sign with Southampton, did you feel something there or was it more of a timing issue? You're like, you know what, it feels like a nice fit. Let me jump in.
It was a combination, It was a combination, at least within my mind. It was mental fatigue because, like I said, I went from being in Scotland to then moving down the ladder, going to West Ham and to Reading, and then going to Southampton. Southampton was further south. It's south of London, a little bit warmer. Generally on regular days, as warm as it could be. Nice fit. A lot of Caribbean people were down there. Trinis, of course, because we're everywhere. And it seemed like a good place to be, a nice homey club, not too large really, and again, just mental fatigue, because the things that were happening from the different places that I went in terms of me being able to settle somewhere and sign somewhere was not straightforward. So there was a lot of arguments going back and forth and disagreements about the business behind it, whether it be whatever fee, how much, who wants, if this is not the person that actually organized this for you. So at that point I was really tired, because I was in the thick of it, and I was really tired. I was like, you know what, this all lines up, off the field and on the field. So let's just do it here and done with it.
And we actually didn't touch on it. And rest in peace, Grovey.
Yes.
But what was it like, kind of, because from the outside, like the guys, the nerds, who didn't really play much sports, and when we did, we warmed the bench. But for me, looking at y'all and Julius James and a bunch of the other guys, and to me it was like, all right, they play football, they're obviously going to go in that direction. And then of course we had a coach as prolific as Grovey, and was it Mr. Grosvenor? Was that a thing where, because I knew that he, from what I remember, he was very passionate about getting footballers outside of Trinidad, or wanting them to move on?
Well, you see, that's the good thing about him, I think that because it was his pathway, Grovey would have played, he went to Trinity College, and he would have go out to university and then come back and did the coaching thing at St. Anthony's. And his overall mission, was to be able to help bridge, that young player, that young boy from Trinidad, to being able to get to that university or junior college, to set them on a pathway. I think more than anything else, that was his main focus. If I'm being honest, I no disrespect, Grovey wasn't really a coach. He was a man manager, as they call it, a motivator, a father figure to a lot of us. And he got the best out of us. He helped us to understand the pride that it meant to represent St. Anthony's College. I mean, St. Anthony's College before my time wasn't really a championship winning team. We didn't have a lot of trophies and medals or whatever the case is at the top level. But at the same time, I think his biggest success was relatively the 1,000 odd so, boys that he would have come across and how he would have impacted them in their life. That for me was the biggest thing, because like I said, I don't know how Grovey had all these links, but for some reason, again, all of these top schools, you name it, the Wake Forests, the UConns, the St. John's, the Barry Universities, the FIUs, like all of these coaches used to get in contact with him, and they used to come to Trinidad to watch the players. For some reason, I think, St. Anthony's College was a feasting ground for them, wow. and so constantly.
St. Anthony's was known then.
Yeah, it was known. And like, we have a history of players also. And I guess that's how the network works, a history of players from in the past that would have, gone to school. And when we emigrate to the US, I think our Caribbean connection or even our Trinidadian connection gets stronger. So all the players that would have gone through universities, they form that link, and then that spider web of networking and helping players continue to come out and go to university so that they can get that education, but mainly also is being in that hallway of being able to set yourself up for later. Whatever that meant. Relatively, all people that go to university don't end up doing anything that, relates to what they did in university. But at the same time, the experience is what matters. But, he was amazing. He was really amazing for a lot of us. I think, outside of the sport, even what he meant to the school, populace and environment, I think he was a larger than life figure.
I agree. I mean, I play pickleball in the St. Anthony's courts, where the basketball court was in the gym. And I cannot walk into St. Anthony's and walk into that gym without seeing him leaning up right outside the entrance, watching under the shade, under the shelter, watching the fellas play football. I see it. If I go to that this afternoon, I will picture him. I will remember him being there. So it's a staple.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
he was. I mean, he's so. I call him a prolific figure for football. Maybe not, as you mentioned, maybe not 100% coach wise, but I think that what he did for football, for St. Anthony's, and for the countless young men in the sport and maybe women. I'm not sure if he was involved in any women's sports, but he certainly was a larger than life figure.
Oh yeah,
that I think he will be known and remembered for a long time.
He's like I said, he's larger than life. You can't mention St. Anthony's College, no matter what they do and how far they go, without him being one very pivotal figure. Mrs. Bidesi, rest in peace as
Absolutely.
well. Father Borrelli.
When I came, he had just left.
Yeah, that was like his last year. My first year was his last year, and we'd have of course everyone remember Father Mendez as well. But those and Mrs. Murray,
both of them.
Those are and Mr. Roberts as well. Those are people that have been staples and the foundation, I think, of St. Anthony's College, and the figures that really hold up what it meant, to be involved in the school somehow for those that went to St. Anthony's or even hear about it.
Yeah, and Mr. Gaia's there.
Mr.
He might be the vice principal or principal.
No, he's the principal now.
Mr. Gaia.
Yeah,
he was always super cool.
Yeah,
and Mr. Laurent is still there. There's a bunch of them that are still there, and it's kind of. I've always said since I was young that teaching, when I left school, that teaching is one of the most noble professions.
And it's one of the hardest jobs ever.
Without a doubt. Especially today.
Yeah.
And so I always, anytime I see them, I can't pass them straight. I'll never let them pass me straight. I have to say a quick hello.
Of course.
I actually had Miss Sedeno on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Her episode comes out Friday.
Oh, lovely.
Just small little promo.
I love to see that.
But yes, Miss Sedeno, she was probably on my top 10 favorite teachers in my life. And she kind of, the way that you speak about Groovy is kind of how I feel about Miss Sedeno.
Yeah.
That she impacted so many people in her field. And she created situations, at least for me and a few of the young men in St. Anthony's, when we were the youngest debate team to compete intercall. And she led that whole thing. And she, she made me the captain of the debate team, which was scary at the time, but probably introduced me to a new way of thinking and a new way of analyzing and critical thinking and whatnot. Yes. And so it's just
Groovy is just the football part.
Correct.
The as a student athlete, the other teachers, I think they left an impact. Like I said, the Mr. Roberts, the Miss Danielle,
of course.
Miss Boynes at the time,
Miss Legal, French,
Miss Badri, Miss Legal. Funny thing is, and again, life is such a circle. I've seen her a bunch of times after school, and of recently, her daughter, was teaching my daughter in Maria Regina at
that's crazy to me.
at some point in time, and it's so funny how the cycle goes, But like I said, St. Anthony's for me was probably one of the best times of my life. Not only for the football part of it, but also for the growth and the interaction, the social awareness as well. Because most of people that I feel warm and familiar with are the people that I went to school with.
Yeah.
At that time, because those are the ones that form the lasting familiarities and friendships. So it was a wonderful time, being a part of that.
Well, so we're now going to connect that time to now really quick. How do you feel about the level of intercall football then versus now? You see, anytime I open my phone and it has anything to do with intercall, I see Fatima killing it. So that is different. That is different because back in the day they weren't really all that.
Yeah.
How is it the level of football?
Well, first of all, on the Fatima thing, I think, again, for them, they're doing pretty well. And that's just a change of structure and approach and that type of thing. Being a coach now and coaching, unfortunately, I don't want to sound as if I'm, condescending or disrespectful, but I think I'll say it's different. It is not, in my opinion, the same level. It is not the same level even in the interest. Whether that be from the universities, because like I said, when I go back to my time, we always used to have scouts, the first division scouts of the big schools. Now you have, a lot of boys going over to junior colleges and having to pay, some part of their scholarships. And it's not, again, it's not what we're accustomed to. Unfortunately, things have changed. Even the interest in it, the crowds we used to get in watching Intercol. Now you don't get that, and I feel so sorry for the players now that they don't have that level of interest and support behind them. Also, I think the whole arena, even where the league is concerned, they need to do better. And also as coaches and people that support the players, now we also need to do better because I don't think our school system has moved on, and I'm not talking about just the sporting side. I think the education side of it hasn't moved on. It hasn't evolved with the time, and that in itself, kind of gives you some polar opposites. Being in the environment now, there is no. I mean, yes, you want every kid to play, but there is not the real fanfare and the interest behind it that it used to be. And I think, that's one of the biggest things that the boys are missing out on. And then you have, of course, being able to get better as coaches and support staff and all of that to try and help them, for them to become better, because it's important that we continue to pour into them to be better and form that bridge or continue the links of that bridge for them to go on to the next step.
I kind of feel the same way about film, acting and film for me. But yeah, I guess now we could kind of move on to the post school football.
Yeah.
I was in, the year is 2006.
Okay.
I was working as a junior buyer for retail stores, and we traveled to, myself and actually my mother traveled to Curacao to buy clothes, wholesale. And it was during the World Cup that we traveled. And I remember walking into a store, when I say store, like a wholesale thing, department. And my mother's, we're looking around and we'll see what they have. And on the TV, I look up and I'm like, oh, the World Cup, they're playing the World Cup here. Fantastic. And I looked up and I was like, oh, Trinidad's playing today. This is Trinidad playing. And it was the game that we actually qualified against Bahrain, I think.
Yeah.
Where we qualified.
So then that would have been 2000.
No, it wasn't the World Cup.
That would have been the playoff game.
Correct. It was Bahrain. So it's 2005?
Yeah.
Right. So
that would have been like in the November of 2005.
Right. So the year is 2005 and I'm in Curacao in a wholesale place, and I see this TV and I'm like, oh, we're playing Bahrain. That's right. If we, if everything happens in our favor, we qualify for the thing. And I stayed in that shop for about 25 minutes to watch the rest of the game. And I was and me and the other staff. And I remember when we actually qualified, there was like a little mini celebration, and the people in the store were like, oh, you're from Trinidad? I'm like, yes. Yes, it was amazing. They're like, congratulations. I don't think we as a country have been more united in the last 30 years than that year. It felt that way.
No, that's correct.
People were driving on when we were in the World Cup. We weren't even playing games. People were driving around, flags.
Yeah.
Representing. People was high-fiving in the streets. It was like that. That's how much that meant to us.
Yeah. I think And it's a debate that is in the country about the number one sport. There's undoubtedly it's football. I mean, cricket is on the rise, or up there as well. Athletics, we used to have pride, but athletics is more an individual sport more than anything else. So yes, we have the Ato Bolons and the Keyshawn
And it's
Walker.
based on success a lot.
But I don't think that any of the successes that we would have had in any of those other sports would have done the job that football has done when we qualified. Now you could put that down to a few things, whether that in our 100-year history of playing football, is the first time we qualified for a senior World Cup. Maybe it's a lifelong dream. Yes, it's happened. But I think at the same time, because football is something that is the number one sport that everyone, no matter if you play or not, you can relate to. It's easy to understand. There are things about it that would attract you. It was the most unifying moment. Something like that. I hope that we, don't take it for granted because of, our geography. It is not something that you can do every single time because of our size. It's not something that you'll be able to do every single time. So we have to be a bit more strategic in how we attempt to qualify. If and I tell people like this is so it's so amazing, but I don't think people study this. Back in 1973. I mean, I wasn't born yet, but 1974 World Cup, we could have qualified for that, but we had a little mishap, a little refereeing decisions, whatever the case is, and we almost qualified. 25 years later, right? Or 26 years later, let me say this, 1989.
No, that would have been 73 to 89, would have been 16. Not 26, 16, yes. So 89,
16,
so strike
sorry,
squad. Yeah, strike
16,
squad.
almost did it. Again, we came that close.
Within both instances, we're within one game.
Within that game, once we won,
Right.
We would have qualified. And then after that, back to 2005. So another 16 years?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the time period.
So we should have made it in 2021, and
well, we should have
qualified, but then
we should have qualified
COVID.
this last time.
Yeah, we're so close, huh?
COVID was difficult, but we should have made it this last time. But again, I don't think we were very strategic in how we actually build the support up from the bottom and put all the systems in place in order to strategically try and qualify for that time. It's not something that we can do every single time. It is difficult. It's a hell of a task, but I hope we're able to do it in the future again. Hopefully in my lifetime, I'll be able to see it again. Because it's important for us, not only for, yes, the unification of the country, but also for the hopes and dreams of the young footballers that are there and the continuation.
And give them the best chance. Give them the best chance individually and as a team.
Of course.
So now I want to kind of dive into this World Cup because there's very few people have played in the World Cup in the world. I may have met one or two, you being one of them. Yeah. I've known you for a while, but what is besides nerve-wracking, what is a locker room like before you go and play Sweden or England? Or what is that like?
Well, nerve-wracking to begin with, but it's fulfilling dreams. And again, in that World Cup, I think we could have only appeared, made an appearance, because again, like I said, it's so difficult to be able to make it to the World Cup as a big footballing country. So imagine for us 1.4, 1.5, however it goes, the little scale between that, we go up and down. But to be able to make it, it's a hell of a feat, and we could tell now 20, how much ever years later,
20 years later,
we're still hoping that we get there. And also, I don't think that we're realizing how difficult it is in this modern time again. But in that locker room, you have, going and playing in front of 80,000 people, 90,000 people, going and play against people that, yourself and others in the country will be watching on their TVs playing for big clubs, the Barcelonas, the Inter Milans, the Manchester Uniteds, you name it. It's, again, it's fulfilling that dream now for us. There's the overall dream of playing in the World Cup, but then you also have, of course, you're going to probably come up against some teammates. Like, in the Sweden game, I had a couple of teammates that played for Sweden.
Wow.
But again, maybe in your career, you might not, even though you're playing the game, you might not get to come across, let us say, Ibrahimovic or Larson, or Freddie Lundberg at the time. You're not able to come up against them based on, where you're situated in your league or the country or whatever the case is. But that in itself is a dream, being able to, perform at something that is so historic to the world. The number one sport in the world and so historic. And, as children, you would have grown up watching the for those who are older, the Pelés and watching the Maradonas and watching the Zidanes, the Platinis and the Roberto Baggios, and they playing this competition and then being able to land, in that same competition and grace the field. It was a dream come true. I swear, for that World Cup, I cried, the qualification. And then also going into that, I shed a few tears because this is not something you're guaranteed to see in another lifetime. So, it was just a thankful moment, really grateful, and also the opportunity to put your name in the history books.
Do you come out of that? Win, lose, or draw, doesn't matter. Do you come out of that changed? You have a different outlook?
Yes, you feel fulfilled. Because again, it's the hopes and dreams. Like I said, my family, my dad, my uncle was part of the strike squad team that almost qualified, so in the qualification process for me, I think I shed some tears and I called my dad, I called my uncle. No, they were actually there in Manama.
Okay, right, nice.
Watching the game. So for me, it was like the fulfillment of legacy,
of course,
in a way. At that moment, I really didn't understand, the other part of qualifying for the World Cup. I was just happy to do it because for me, it kind of, put the final Lego piece in a family, construct,
right?
More or less. So I was more joyful and appreciative and excited for them
to share it with them.
Yeah, to share it with them because they are more or less seeing their legacy being fulfilled there because they've tried and it didn't happen, So, and then going to play in the World Cup again, my uncle was there, my dad, wasn't able to make it. But again, it's being on that stage and being able for them to see, their bloodline, in something that they love and play, and just, gracing the field, something that, like I said, for all of the players of any sport, whatever the top competition is, the most historic competition, you hope that one day you're going to make that. And for me, it's just like a stepping stone of achievements because under 17 World Cup here, hosted in Trinidad and Tobago, I played that, and for me on that level, that was the most amazing thing. And then even trying to get back to that after for the country, it took some time. Took, I think, probably like 6 years, and then, we made the under 20 in like 8 years after that. But then getting to the point where I was relatively, 21 years old playing in a World Cup, that was crazy.
I mean,
that is crazy.
You all shut down the country.
Well,
listen, during those games, I remember it well. There was no work happening.
Yeah, well,
government office, clothing store, restaurant, everything was shut down and because, and not just shut down, but the question on everybody's mind is, all right, where are we going to watch this game?
We're going to watch the game.
I went to Zen.
Yeah,
I was part of the Zen crew.
Yeah.
And was, and it was ram. I was on the floor. I sat on the floor.
But that's the other thing, because yes, as a country, we play cricket, right? Part of the West Indies, and even athletics. I don't even think that those sports, bring the country to such a standstill.
I don't think so.
We've played in cricket World Cups. We've won CPL T20 titles and all of that. We've had the Keyshawn Walcotts and the Atto Bolans and the Richard Thompsons and they, represent us at the Olympics. But I don't think it actually, and I could be wrong, someone could correct me. I don't think it shut the country down.
No, I don't think so. I think
everyone's paying attention.
I think the only other time I could, and it has nothing to do with sports, I think the only other time I could point to something that it felt like the country was unified in that politics didn't matter, nothing mattered, was when Anya Ayangchi was on Project Runway in 2009, I believe. And seeing the country rally around her, it genuinely reminded me of how we rallied around the Soca Warriors. I don't know if I could even call it that. I don't want to get sued. But but at the end of the day, it's like we rallied around our Trinidad and Tobago football team. And a few years later, I saw kind of it happening for Anya on social media and people voting. And, that whole Project Runway is kind of based off of votes and texting and whatever. And I felt it. It's like, wow, it's like we are rallying around either an individual but we're rallying around a Trinidadian, Trinbagonian. And I think you're right. I don't think I've seen that. And of course, the World Cup was literally shut down the country. I mean, everybody and their grandmother was watching these games. And it blew my mind, because I whenever I talk about, this is not the first time I've spoken about this specific kind of unification event. I've spoken about it before with people. It's like, do you remember 2006 when we were in the World Cup? Like I tell people that. It's like, do you remember how the country was literally one?
And but that's the thing. It's not what the good thing about that was it wasn't an event or a motion by everyone by happenstance. The build up into the qualification process. And yes, everyone likes winners and
kind of like a lot of marketing.
And we're able to qualify. But what it did after that, I think, shows how we can support the things that are Trinidad and Tobago. And I think in between that, when we don't qualify, I think we take that for granted. Or it's like a sense of entitlement, like, we're supposed to, we have to be there, when not understanding what happens on the ground and how, how everything contributes to that point. So I feel bad. I feel bad for sportsmen, sportswomen, artists, whatever, in between that, because they don't have that sense of fullness behind them, because yes, you literally have to win, but even after you win, there's still question marks and all of that negatives coming out of it. So I do feel bad for how we are now. What we have to do to come out of it. It's a hell of a lot of work.
Well, let's fast forward. Let's jump forward again to your Premier League. I mean, career. That's not an appearance. You could say we appeared at the World Cup as a country, but your career in the Premier League. I mean, there are young men and women who look up to guys like you, Dwight York. I mean, your names are in the same conversation when it comes to careers in the Premier League. And I think that is, I mean, first of all, that's huge for anybody.
It is.
But
it is.
I mean, you have I know you've played for a good handful of teams, but Premier League teams. I have, in my research, I have Southampton, Sunderland, Stoke. Was Cardiff in the Premier League at the time? Cardiff, and there was any more? Or is those four in the Premier League?
Those four were in the Premier League.
And then you took some other teams and you assisted them into getting closer.
Promotion, getting closer and that type of stuff. But, the funny thing about that is that for me, it's only about a year and a half ago that I really sat down and, kind of reconciled what that meant. Again, taking it for granted of being from Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I mean, there are these different, I would like to say, researchers that, bring out, players that had either Trinidadian roots or connections, in the sport and played in top divisions in England or wherever. And, from since the 1930s, I think we would have had, sprinkles of Trinidadian roots,
Right.
that,
Yeah.
ended up in playing in the first division at the time it was called, and of course the Premier League. But I think there are only two people that went directly from the country and went to the Premier League.
You and Dwight?
And that's me and Dwight. Everyone else had, that got up here had, sort of, different routes, whether it be straight to the lower leagues first, and then at some point in time in the career was able to make an appearance. But from the bat, I went straight off, just like Dwight.
So then at 17, really, your trials were with Premier League teams.
Oh yeah. It was always that,
Wow.
Fortunately for me, God gave me a talent, and that talent was, able to be seen, and it found favor. Excuse me. And like I said, I made it because I remember my first debut. I mean, it was only like 5 minutes or so. It was against Liverpool for Southampton, playing against, the Sammy Hippiers and the Stephen Gerrards, and that is a moment I would never forget, because even standing up in the tunnel next to them, I as any young kid, I would start measuring myself, in terms of height and size.
I'm going to ask you some of those questions.
Against them, and again playing in front of those crowds, I was prepared for it, but at the same time, it's a dream come true.
I don't want to get you in too much trouble.
No.
Which Premier League team felt most like home, most welcoming? And none of them would feel like home, but would feel the most welcoming. Was it your first? Was it when you went somewhere else? When you went to another club, did you kind of fit in a little bit better?
Well,
your style of play.
I mean, for me, it was different. I looked at my career as an experience. I didn't leave Trinidad and Tobago to say that I'd live in England for all my life. That was never a goal of mine. So even landing in the country, going out to play, it was I looked at it as an experience, a part of my life that I would be able to carry with me until the day that I'm no longer here. So, enjoy the experience. And I think every single club that I played for, was great for the particular moment that I played for them in my life, because, you go through those growth stages and experiencing different things and evolving all the time. And for me, it was amazing everywhere I went. In England, it's it's not likely for a player to have a song, and that's the fans singing a song they've made up for you. Unfortunately for me, every single club that I went to, the fans made up a song for me. So those things are experiences that I take, with me even up to this day. People would write me on Instagram. Podcasters now who I would do interviews with, who would have been supporters of said clubs or the Premier League at that time, would bring up those moments, sing the songs, write it out. I constantly get videos of even, supporters of those clubs who weren't even born when I was playing for them, or were like really, really young, sending me videos singing the song, to this day, so that's something that I'm absolutely grateful for, that I was able to, have an impact on people's lives and clubs in that manner.
I've always found that Trinbagonians, we have the ability, I think it's just innate, it's just in us to make a mark. Wherever we go, it does not matter.
That is correct. What we have in us is that DNA, that fabric. We tend to leave it everywhere and bring people, to be a part of it. Is something that is very, every islander or every countryman of whichever country is going to say that's unique to them. But I think we bring a different flavor because we're, in an unassuming place in the world. People don't know much about us, but for Carnival, y'all are, oh, you're from the island, so they expect us to be a certain way. But when you get into their space and really express yourself, I think that is infectious. and it tends to leave a lasting impression on whoever you're around or whichever institution, you know, and that's and then to be honest, that is not for everybody, even though you're from Trinidad and Tobago and yeah, but you know, it depends on what you do and how you do it.
What do you think that there was, because you played for, like I said, a handful of clubs, most of them in the Premier League. Do you think that there was a manager that changed your career more than the next?
In which direction, though?
I would say any, because at the end of the day, growth, personal growth, football growth, professional growth.
So like I said, that's why I look at my career as experiences, you know.
All matter.
When I went to Southampton and I made my debut, again being 18, you know, that was just before I turned 19. I had a couple of appearances, but that manager then got fired. Right? And he moved to Sheffield Wednesday, which was a League One club at the time, because he wasn't having so much of good results. And I made my debut, and then, you know, obviously being brand new to the thing, they sent me out on loan.
Right.
But he requested me on loan to that club. So I went to that club for about a month. And as soon as I got there, again, not thinking about, oh, well, what your career is, to me, is straight impact. And I went there for a month, scored like 7 goals in 7 games, and helped propel them to getting promoted to, you know, the championship at the time. Came back, played a couple more games, and then I went out on loan again to a championship club, to who I would later play for, you know, for quite a few years. I went to Stoke City. The manager at that time, he brought me into an environment where a lot of old school players, and for the people that really used to watch Premier League, you know, I had the opportunity to play with really good friends of mine now. Like he is relatively a Chelsea legend, Michael Dubry, because they have Caribbean roots. The former technical director of Grenada Football Association, Gifton Nolan Williams. Those were sort of my, you know, mentors getting into that space, because you're coming into some familiarity. So straight away they took to me, and, you know, we did some good work during that time. And then I went back to Southampton. Southampton got relegated to the championship. You know, I came across, like I said, I had teammates that played in the World Cup. One was the captain of Sweden at the time, Michael Svensson. I played, you know, I had the captain of Norway in my team, Peter Crouch.
I was going to ask about him.
Jamie Redknapp. You know, so like I met Rory Delap. Like I met so many people early on in my years, and then later on they became, you know, teammates and friends later on. So all the experiences at different clubs was so great. The managers that came at some point, you know, they all did their thing and helped me to be able to elevate. And, you know, it was all fantastic. I don't really put one above the other, to be honest.
Right. I'm going to ask this question from the lens of, I guess, from my experience. I'm an actor. I've been an actor for, I think, going this year, the end of this year will be 27 years since I made my stage debut at 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just aged myself perfectly there. But for me, and I've had this conversation literally thousands of times with parents, friends, siblings, significant others. For me, I don't think that I will ever be able to, I genuinely don't think I will ever be able to not be in this industry and not act and not produce and not filmmake. Going from football is literally your life, playing football and everything that comes with that, the training, the mental aspect, the confidence aspect. What was it like for you going from that height to then deciding, okay, it's, you know, I've kind of aged out. I mean, I don't know. I don't think injury was anything. Was
injury was a big part of it. You know, when I retired at 33, you know, so going from 18, that's basically a 15-year career. Yeah. Because again, apart from the professional career, the international career, you know, playing for the national team, I played, you know, 14 years at the senior level, made my debut at 17. You know, it's a long time. And I don't think that people really understand the intensity of what you do at that level.
Right.
Yes, we know, the different variations. We know playing in school, and then you probably might go to college or playing in Trinidad. But I don't think that they understand the intensity at that level, at Premier League level. It's
So then
it's
going from that
24/7
and to retirement, a football retirement from playing the game of football.
Well, the thing is, I was at peace with not playing anymore. The way things were at that time and going and leading up to now, the whole landscape of football is changing and all of that. I was at peace with the career that I had. And also, the funny thing is, during my career, I wasn't really, locked into the hype. I would find, what I would call real relationships, real partnerships, So I went through some experiences with some people in between that kind of shaped my outlook on not only the present moment of playing and the heights of it and the hype and everything, that the fanfare that goes along with it, but what happens after and what happens when the lights turn off. And those things kind of informed my thought process and also the grounding that I would have had from my parents, and where I come from. I'm happy to be an island boy.
Still, yeah.
It's the most amazing thing in the world. We say it every year, come to Carnival. Oh, I love Trinidad so much. It's the best place in the world, da, 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 da. But I really believe that, because all throughout my career, I would have teammates asking me, oh, so what you going to do after this? I'm going to go back home.
Right.
That's my thought process, because there's nowhere in the world that, you can do what we do on a daily basis. At various times I'd come back and I'll see people driving on the highway and they'll just pull up, open out their speakers and have a cooler in the back trunk and drink it at the side of the highway, listening to music. You have to love Trinidad. You cannot do that anywhere else in the world. So, after playing, I was like, I'm mentally fatigued as well, because like I say, football is 24/7. I didn't want to do anything concerning football. I didn't want to watch football. I didn't want to, even go and play football. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted some time to defrost and be a regular human being.
What would you say then, having said that, what would you say would be your biggest struggle post-football? Post-playing football. I know you're still involved in football. Post-playing football.
The biggest struggle.
Because you say you didn't want to watch football, but did it come a time where you'd put on a match and you started to remember the days?
Oh, no. I don't even need to watch a match. I could just,
Highlights.
I could just, not even highlights. I could just see a result and know exactly how the game went. It's what I struggle with, and I still struggle with right now, is watching the landscape of where we are and how things are going, and knowing that over my career, over my footballing career, not just my professional career, from the moment that I started to travel and go to different countries, being a part of football, I used to soak in all the information. And when I mean every single thing, from the fans at the side of the road, the things that they're selling, the way things are set up going into a stadium match, the way a stadium looks, how it is situated, how it is built, the construction of it, the dressing rooms, everything, when you go to training grounds, how the training ground is set up, the things that they have, the machinery that they have, the support staff that they have, everything that goes into it. I used to take in that information because I know that is what we need at home. Maybe not to that scale, but, progressively going towards it, to help, elevate and evolve and move things forward in our country. So my biggest struggle even to today is, watching the landscape and not being able to impart what is needed to get us up to the level. Because, this is Trinidad and Tobago, and we understand that the guy that was the coach or the manager of a place 30 years ago is still the manager of the place. He hasn't evolved. He's not letting go of that spot. There's no room for, another person to come up in there. There's no succession planning. There's no evolution. There's no bringing of ideas together. And we're in a system where, even now, just last night I was watching, our under-20s play. And even before that, the week before would have been the under-17s. And saying that, we're failing them by when you look at the landscape and how things going and knowing how it is in other countries. And this is the thing that
it can be frustrating.
It is frustrating. I don't buy into the hype. I speak to people from everywhere.
Yeah.
About football. They ask for ideas. They ask for opinions, on everything. And right back at home, you have people around here that, no disrespect, think they know what they're doing.
Right.
And they're in the places of all leading spots, the decision makers, and they don't seek out information. They think that they know it all and they have the experience when actually they don't. And it's painful to see how things are going and knowing that the only way that you can actually, make an impact in those places is by being the friend of a friend.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Unfortunate, yes, that's for sure.
It's unfortunate.
We get that.
We're not based on meritocracy, and that's the most painful thing because that is where you get the real functions and the evolution happening and the machinery working. But that is my biggest frustration. It's nothing else.
I have some reflective questions that I want to get to. But just before I get to that, because it's one more question on this exact topic. And I'm sure you've thought about this. So I almost apologize because I know this question is good. What legacy do you want to leave on Trinidad and Tobago football? I doubt it's that you've left your legacy already. For me, it feels like you want to do more. It sounds like that.
Oh no, I will do more.
Right.
The current plans of that, I can't really reveal, in its entirety because obviously there are some processes to go. But I am doing everything to put myself or educate myself, give myself the knowledge base to be able to execute what I want properly.
Right.
I have the practical experience, but I want to put the theory behind it, put the network behind it, in order to exact what I want to operate. Because especially when you talk about, where the future, not even the present, because we can see what the present is, but what the future of something is. You have to nurture it, set the environment up, and take care of the seedlings, and for what I want to do is to bring something here that is nowhere in the region, and like I said, I'm in conversations with a lot of people about setting that up and being able to execute it, because it is the only way that we are going to be able to produce in the modern time and be able to even provide an opportunity for us to have more of myself, more of Dwight's, more of Russell's, more of Shaka Hislop's, and you name it, and I don't think, not that I don't think, I know we're not doing it properly. So I want to be able to do that, and hopefully, in the very near future, I'll be able to
get some results for us as well.
Yeah. Well, results is it's you have to have short-term execution, medium-term vision, and long-term strategy.
Right.
Relatively, in order to produce something like that, because we're talking about years and years. And earlier I talked about strategic planning of trying to do something. So that is focused within those aspects, but the actual setting up of it is being able to flip things on their head. Because, like I said, our school system, everything has not evolved from how it was in order to facilitate the career of a sportsman. We're still using sport as a vehicle when the time comes around to be able to get the scholarship and all of that. But in between that, we're here like, oh, no, you need to study and not play so much sports. No, well, I'm going to ban you from sports. They never ban you from school, but they'll ban you from sports. Yeah. And that type of it feeds into the psyche and the mentality of how we think and how we look towards, sport and producing sportsmen and sportswomen. So I want to be able to change that aspect with what I'm, hopefully, God's willing, about to do.
Now I want to kind of get into the act 3 of the chat. What, and these may be slightly difficult questions, what did success cost you?
Yeah,
you've had
this is a
great deal of success.
This is a funny thing, and I say this to my kids all the time and to people that I talk to. No matter what you do, right? Success involves sacrifice. You want to be, have a career and be top in whatever field you're in. You're going to have to sacrifice stuff. You're going to have to sacrifice times with friends, loved ones, relationships, love, popularity in some aspects. You're going to have to sacrifice something. And I always kind of, go biblical with it with a lot of people where, I try to say to them, the children of Israel were given the lands, after coming out of Egypt, and being in the desert for 40 years, God showing them favor, saying that these are the lands I'm giving to you, go and inherit it. But the people of Israel didn't really have to do anything. Well, the majority of them, the warriors or the soldiers of them, had to go in and fight and drive people away from those lands in order, for the children of Israel to come in. So, and that sums up life. In order for them to be successful and to be happy and victorious and enjoy the fruits of that labor, something has to be sacrificed. There were people in that land before and they got driven out. They now lose their homes. They have to go find somewhere else. So there's a sacrifice happening. And for football, I think for me, and that success, I had to sacrifice a lot. The things that normal teenagers would have been doing, hanging with friends here. My friends were in football. So, okay, it's training, it's getting up early. It's the injuries, is not going to parties, is more focusing on how much more I could train or where else can I get into, or, how better I can play. That type of sacrifice and even going through my career, even, spending family time and now I get to enjoy carnival. But, for many years I would have friends just, showing me them videos. Where are you? While you're walking the streets bareback, you have your alcohol in your hand, shades on. I'm running on snow. My toes are freezing off. I can't put them in my shoes, but I have to go out there and run and, having all sorts of different issues in order to be successful. Yeah. So it's sacrifice goes with anything. If you want to be the best lover man out there, it means that your career, your job, other aspects will be sacrificed in order for you to be successful at that. So no matter what you do, you have to, success equals sacrifice. And, the results of success is more hard work.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you wish people, fans, whoever it is, what do you wish that they knew more about you?
Oh, wow.
Or they understood about you more? Is it your passion for your, your homeland? Is it your, is it football that drives you? Is it family?
I don't know. I don't think there's anything in particular that I'd like people to know, because I think I'm a extrovert and an introvert at the same time.
Right.
But for the people around me, they just know that I am, I value people, I value life, I value, fun and good times, the comedy. And I'm not talking about, TV comedy. I'm talking about being able to enjoy the person and to laugh with and to, make fun of and really bring out that real essence of life, because it doesn't matter what you do, what you have, the older you get to understand that the real currency is how you live amongst your family, how you live with friends, how you're able to affect them, the joy you bring to people's lives. So that for me is probably, if anything, for people to know.
And I, just before we kind of start to wrap up this thing, I just remembered that I was supposed to bring it up during our St. Anthony's chat. The year, story time. The year is 2001. I'm in my final year, CXE.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm taking classes with, tech voc and auto mechanics and refrigeration and do normal geography and physics and maths.
Yeah.
One day, coincidentally, in Miss Murray's office, Miss Murray's classroom upstairs, where it was, the geography room, I found an auto mechanics textbook. And I had never bought one because I wasn't really studying auto mechanics. So I never really bought one. It was a small little textbook like this. And it was just there. And so I picked it up. I was like, all right, cool. I have an auto mechanics textbook now. And I'll just flip through it and thing. Got home, opened the book just for curiosity. And whose name do I see at the top of the book? Kenwyne Jones. And so this is just, let's just allow me this time to apologize for stealing your book 25 years ago.
No. I mean, that's the school environment, somebody leaves something, you go with it.
And I still have I still have the book. It's in storage, and I spent the whole weekend looking for it.
No, let me tell you something. Tech voc, and people might think, St. Anthony's tech voc or whatever. To me, and well, for me, tech voc was sort of like a wait and be. Because again, based on the trajectory of how things were going for me, tech voc kind of suited the sort of lifestyle that I had, meaning that
needed
to at
succeed,
the time to be able to, I would go up to Mrs. Bidesi's office and be like, Miss, listen, I need a pass here because I'll be leaving, from this period to this period. I won't be in school because I'm going on trial here, that type of thing. And she facilitated because, again, we were making the school proud.
And that you all did.
And so, but I'm just trying to say that, at CXC level, just for the people that look in, I have all my passes. I did sciences, and in those times, now it's different. They used to package all the sciences.
Yeah, correct.
Which was, biology, chemistry, physics. I also did my maths, human and social biology, and that type of thing.
HSB,
so I wasn't just liming in tech voc.
That was after.
What they used to, that was after.
That was after.
Just being a jock, because that those type of results provided the opportunity also for the scholarships, because when they come and they look at your grade, oh shucks, you doing this? Because I also known that, for me, if I had to go the university route, I'd end up a physiotherapist, because that's what I loved. But those times in schools were some of the best times. I've lost many of books. Many of books.
Well, I have one of them.
I also gained many books. That's how school life was. It wasn't, it wasn't anything to frown upon. When you look back at it, it was some of the best experiences. And like I say, yourself and everyone that I would have gone to school with and been a part of classes with, are some of the people that stick with you throughout your life. It's some of the, it is the best time I've had, in that period, being in school, and I'm proud to be a St. Anthony's boy.
Absolutely. Tiger.
Yeah, Tiger for life.
Tiger for life. And, I often kind of, more recently with this podcast, I've realized that the last question is usually, for me, I want it to be an impactful one. And so I spent a lot of time thinking, I was like, what do I want to ask Kenwyne for his last question? And I kept coming back to legacy. And I kept coming back to legacy. And the reason is that I look at some of the sportsmen, sportswomen of Trinidad, not just sports, but people who have accomplished things on an international stage.
Yeah.
And we always look at them with pride, immense pride and joy in most of the cases when at football and swimming and Atto running and George Bovell making the Olympics, Keyshawn Walcott. throwing that javelin further than anybody else. In 20 years, in 20 years, when people say the name Kenwyne Jones, what do you hope they remember?
I hope they remembered what I've done in what will be at that time, God's will, in my recent past. Because like I said, yes, for me, I've never played the sport for the fanfare, hoping to be a celebrity or anything like that. Those things come with it. I'm very appreciative, but it's not my, or has been my number one priority. I think of myself as always, being the being able to see the bigger picture and have that big picture mentality. Playing a sport that I wanted to run away from, it was my second option, just because, like I said, because of the whole legacy of family and all of that. And then being a part of it in the forefront, then having those achievements. For me, being able to say that I helped the landscape change is what hopefully at that time would be my recent past that I would like people to remember. Not specifically for praises to my name, but for the results of what is taking place. Because like I say, it's important, we sit down and we talk about like the children of the future and what will happen in 10 years time, 20 years time. How will the country look when we're older? We're not the architects of the machinery going in different directions. What would that look like? And and the trouble is now I look at the fact that of what we're producing, how it's being done, why it's not being done in a proper way to help us keep up with the rest of the world. So my thought process is about being able to put that structure down, that place, that machinery that would help
Framework.
the evolution.
Right.
That will definitely help the evolution. And again, it's not praise. I could care less about the praise. It doesn't bother me. What I've done physically for myself, it's been done. And like I say, I'm very thankful and grateful. But I don't really give too much about the praise. I want to be able to change the landscape and change our outlook and change and engineer our production. Because I think too many people in our lifetimes, we let things happen to us. We're not intentional about engineering what our outcomes should be. Yes, from a spiritual and moral perspective, you think, well, if what God have for me is for me and all of that, But at the same time, we have to be intentional in what we engineer and how we're going about that. So, like, for me, the tech VOC thing, that was fantastic because up to now, like, I hardly ever call my AC guys to service my AC. I do it myself. I'll be digging up in my car for myself. Those are the tools that it gives you, and being able to create an environment like that, not the tech VOC thing, but handing the tools to someone to be able to be an engineer in their outcome is definitely something I want to be my legacy.
That's the best answer I could possibly hope for.
Yeah, it might seem a little corny for people, because these days, people are they're just about surviving and making their own way, and
it feels that it's very much about your, God, I don't want to sound cliche, but next chapter that you want. That it's not like you left football and you're like, all right, cool, time to relax. It feels like, no, it's like, okay, now I want to impact football.
No, well, I had that. And again, legacy, Grovey, I think he shaped some of that. I don't think he knew what he was doing. He was just doing it because, it's in his character. And it's only after you're gone, or after how many years, and like I say, your recent past is where you're able to see, the things that you have done, the impact it had, and how it kept kept the machinery working. God rest his soul, he's not here, but his legacy lives on in a lot of us.
Without a doubt.
And there's no way that I could have been a benefactor of that. And, going through all the things that I've gone through in my career and everything else, and not, pour back into that pool.
Right. Yeah.
It is important that happens, because that's how the continuation, that's how the cycle goes. Because if we don't, we'll be lost. Yes, a man has to survive, and you have your own dreams and your own aspirations. But at the same time, quickly, just the other day, it was 9 years ago, something you was doing, you just remember, wow, that was 9 years ago. Look how fast time flies. So you have to be very intentional with what you do, how you do it, who it's going to impact, what's the bigger picture, in order to leave that impression, because we don't know how much time we have.
Yeah.
So it's important that we act, and we act intentionally and act quickly.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, and for obviously, of course, the time.
No,
and it's
thank you.
fantastic to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, always.
Yeah, man.
Wonderful.
I love running into the old St. Anthony's boys. It's anytime, no matter where it is, it almost feels like time and stop.
Yeah, it stopped. It's never been a situation where it's like, oh well, that time was good, I want to forget it. No, that's some of the times, and for me, I think that in itself also helped shape my characteristics going through life. Seeing other places, but also like I call myself, I'm a real Trinbagonian. I was born in Point Fortin, grew up a little bit in La Brea, spent most of my youthful life in Shogunas, lived in LC Koro, and then went to school in Westmoreland. And being able to come into that environment, seeing different characters, different people, different personalities, getting to know people is probably one of the best times of my life.
I really that's I agree, because I still look at my public school career, and I say it like that because my siblings all went to private school.
Yeah.
So I was the only one who did the public school straight through. Yeah. And I consider that probably some of the greatest learning periods of my life, not just academically, socially, culturally.
And what correlates with that is that when we get to, I don't want to sound like an old man, but when we get to our age now and we look back, I feel joy. I feel joy in that when I see you, knowing that you're behind X that is successful and Y that is successful. When I see someone else, that they're doing something of success and impacting, I'm so happy and joyful to see them reach to this place, and whatever they've done be so successful and making an impact. And those are the moments in this life that I really cherish.
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate the time again, Kenwyne.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, brother. Thank you.
This.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing all the stuff to come. I do. You have plenty supporters. You have 2 in his room alone.
It's gonna be big.
2 out of 2.
It's gonna be big.
Thank you so much again, brother.
No problem.